Hi everyone, welcome to another video in the Figma series. In today's video, we'll take a look at how to illustrate a balloon. So a very simple object, but we'll learn a few tricks on how to illustrate a balloon. So to do that, let me, in my draft section, create a new Figma file, a new design file, and over here, let me paste a reference image. So this is a reference image from unsplash.com, which is a great resource for free images. And so when designing or when illustrating an object, I definitely recommend looking at an existing image, maybe from Unsplash, and illustrating on top of that. So using this as a reference. So for this video, we'll only take a look at illustrating the balloon itself, not the chair. So let's focus on that. And what we'll do is, just like we did in episode 1, we will reduce the opacity of this image. So let's reduce it to maybe 40. That's better. So it's not completely disappeared, but it's not too dark. So whatever we draw on top of this, we will be able to see the image clearly. So now the shape of the balloon itself is a circle. So just like we did in the previous video, we'll go ahead and from this toolbar here, we will select ellipses, and we will create an ellipsis here. It's roughly the same size. And then from the right hand side sidebar, what we'll do is we will adjust the height and the width to match. So that's it is a nice circle. So the proportions are correct. And that's pretty much it. Now in this video though, what I wanted to show is a little bit of the highlights that's done in this original image. So reproducing some of these highlights. So what we'll do is, first of all, we will just increase the opacity for this one so you can see that a bit more clear. And then for this circle, we'll fill it up with a pink color shade. Cool. So now we have a pink color shade. Now what we can do is, so we have two options here. So one is we reduce the highlighting to just 2 colors. So the easiest way to do that is to take this as your base shade, and then we'll just highlight the lights over here, so the lighter ones. So I'll just copy this circle, fill it up with complete white, and then press the K button on my keyboard. So it's a shortcut for scale, and then reduce this a bit and keep it over here. Now of course it doesn't have to be that bright, so what we'll do is we'll click on the fill option and then reduce the transparency a bit. So we'll keep reducing it till it's almost gone. Maybe a little bit more. So that's a simple highlight. Of course, it does not exactly match. So what we'll probably do is, instead of creating it an exact circle, what we'll do is click on the V keyboard button to maybe reduce the shape a bit. So reduce the shape like this, give it a slight angle, and then and then move this a little bit on top. So now this looks slightly much more better, more realistic. As in not absolutely realistic, but it looks a bit more better as in where the light is coming from. We can adjust the opacity and make sure that it is right there. So this is one option. Let's try another thing. What we'll do is copy this. So let's try another thing. Now here we have 3 shades. So we have 3 shades over here. One we have is the darkest pink, then you have a slightly lighter pink, and then you have this white spot. So let's try and see if we can bring that in place. I'll keep this white spot here on top. This copied circle I'll make it a bit more lighter pink. And I will use the K keyboard button to decrease the scale a bit. So I just keep it here, a bit like this maybe. Oops. Yep, I think this is much better, maybe a little bit bigger. Now, if you look at the original image, it's not exactly solid. There's a bit more gradients here that's going on. So we could use the gradients as well. So that's another option. But let's try using the effects, and let's just blur the background. Let's just blur it. There you go. The more I blurred it, so what I did was I selected the um, layer blur option, and so this layer is now blurred, so it's not very solid and doesn't have that solid outlines, and so it is almost the same effect as this. So that's one option to go for. And then of course the blur, I just put it as 50, but then you can always adjust it to be a bit more lighter. um, that we can always keep adjusting it, but the important thing is that it does kind of look, now it does have that same sort of gradient feel. I can reduce this, so now I have selected select the V keyboard option, and this looks a lot better now. So it's not the exact circle, it's not the exact height and width, the proportions. So I've just used the V option instead of the scale. So now I have this more gradienty, more realistic shading here, and then this is a more sort of um, um, solid pastel situation going on here. So I have two options. Let's continue working on the more realistic approach. What we can do is now we can bring this back in, and let's up adjust the settings a bit. And now let's reduce this opacity. Oh, I mean, like make it much more whiter. And then let's do the same blur effect, layer blur, and set this to, let's say, 30. There you go. So now this looks more realistic, more like the actual balloon, than the more illustrated cartoonish version. So there's these two options. Depending on what you're designing, you can either go for this one on the left or this one on the right. Either way, now we have to also still, it's not completely done. We can always adjust this, which we will, but of course we still have to add the string and add this little knot at the end. So let's adjust this first, make it a bit more brighter. Yeah, that's correct. That looks better, I suppose. And let's give this highlight as well, the one on the right. So what I'll do is I'll make it completely fine, and adjust this here on the side. Maybe reduce the blur and see. There you go. So this way we have sort of simulated the same highlights that the original image had, which look great. Now what we'll do is we'll create this knot, and to do this we'll keep it very simple. In this case, what we'll do is, I can see that the shape of this knot is sort of cylindrical in shape. So let's try something out. Let's use a rectangle. And let's increase the radius, border radius for this shape. So this becomes like a capsule. And then let's turn this capsule a bit, move it here. So don't worry, we'll move this thing at the bottom of the image. And then let's adjust the color of this shape. So let's pick a color from here. And let's move this rectangle to the bottom behind these ellipses. Decrease the shape a bit. And then use another ellipses to create this circle at the end. So that's a bit more dark pink. Dark pink here. I think this should be alright for now. We want to make it as simple as possible anyway. So that's completely fine. What we can do is we can increase this angle over here. So what it was, a double click the image, and now I can edit the angle. Can also, given that we have these points, we can also adjust this shape. So you can always do that. And so it gives a more sort of tied up image. Oops. Yep. And then over here, that should be fine. And then for the string, we can just, from the toolbar, we can always use just a single line and create a line. Let's use a black line instead of a white one. And then so you have this little knot thing going on here. So what we can do is we can keep the line till here and then use a pen tool to complete the rest of it. So I click a point to the starting point, and then click the end and then drag it a little bit and then click the second tip. So that completes the shape, and then I can pretty much just keep going. So this thread sort of disappears here. So let's just keep it hanging here. So we've got this nice wavy line here. Adjust this. Just adding a little bit of shape so we can give this line a bit of a twist, since we have already added a little bit of shape over here. So every line sort of has these points. So Figma provides these points which you can click and drag to change the shape, and that's what we'll do. And then what I can do is to give this some more. So it's right now it's a sharp turn. It's a sharp edge. So let's say if I have to soften this a bit, I click on the control key and then drag this a bit, drag this out a bit. So you have these two lines popping out of this circle, and then I can adjust the curves now a bit better. So using these Bezier curves, I click on these lines and drag this line in either direction to adjust these. The reason both are moving together is because we are selecting this option here from the right hand side sidebar, which is to mirror the angle and the length. And now if I click on the center, I can do the same for this one here. There you go. And move this a bit. There you go. Yep. This looks a lot better instead of having a very straight line. Just to give this a knot effect, I can create a copy of this and then move this at the bottom. And then adjust this a little bit. So with two lines, it just looks like a knot to me. It's been tied somewhere in the background. So this looks a lot better. We can go ahead and duplicate the same shape and everything for the one on the left. And if you want, we can do that right now. So if I move this a little to the left, I can duplicate the same shape here and move it to the bottom. There you go. Decrease. Just gonna adjust the colors because it seems a little bit different. There you go. I think this looks much better now. If I adjust the color, oops. There you go. A simple balloon, nothing too fancy. So just to quickly recap, we had this image as a reference image with us, and we have two ways of creating a balloon. Well, you would either choose one or the other design, but obviously not both. But what I've done is in this video showed both the ways of creating. One is just to use solid colors, and depending on what colors you choose or what your other designs are, depending on what colors you choose or what your other designs are, you might go for either one or the other, but probably not both, and that is completely fine. And so I have showed you both the ways here. So this balloon, you can either go for the solid option where you have one ellipses here in the middle, another one here at the side, just for the highlights, and then so that it does not just give you just a one dimensional sort of thing, like without any lights. Adding this lighting gives sort of a little bit of a texture. I've adjusted the colors over here so that it's a bit more lighter. The second one here on the right, what I've done is I've created, so this is a more realistic, so if you look at this image, this is a little bit more realistic image, where you have this lighting and even the texture for this balloon itself, it looks a bit more glossy, and here it looks a little bit more matte. So that's again a difference. And what I've done is I've added two highlights here, one on the left and the right. And the main important thing is that the only difference I've managed to get this is because of this effect called layer blur. But the rest is really just ellipses placed on top of each other. So that's pretty much what it is. And but yeah, it's just this layer blur effect that's given as this gradient shiny texture. And yeah, I mean, I've left it at this, but feel free to adjust the colors and the shapes and as you wish. But yeah, I've just left it at this. Now what I'll do is, just like we did with the previous in the previous episode for the target, what we did is, we will put these images into a frame so that it can go onto the you can post this on your social media profile as well. And if you follow me on Instagram, you would see that post, um, that the target being posted on my social media profile, and also on the YouTube thumbnail image as well. So this will do the same for this. So what we'll do is, first of all, we will group this together. So we group this into this one here, call it a shiny balloon, and then we'll group this one here together, call this a matte balloon, and this is just a reference image, so that's fine. Wrong. Now what we'll do is, we'll create a frame, and while creating a frame, you would have noticed that on the side you have a few dimensions already created for us. So you have all of these here. So we can also, what we can do is, we can use this image, and so this creates an Instagram post frame with all the dimensions ready for us, so we don't have to do anything. So let's use this for now, or today. Copy the matte balloon here and copy the shiny balloon here, and let's use the scale option to scale these two out. Now you would notice that once it's on a white background, you can see that there's this layer blur thing that's going on. So we can always come back and adjust it. Now the blur should have disappeared. Yep, that's there. Background for the frame, it's white, but what we'll do is, we'll fill it up with a little bit of a blue, because we want to show the balloons are in the sky. Blue there. There you go. That looks alright. Maybe it's a little lighter balloon, lighter blue. I think that looks alright. So here we go. We have the reference image that we started from, which is this balloon image from Unsplash, and then we have created two different type of balloons here. One is a more matte finish balloon, solid pastel images, pastel colors. Um, Not too much of a detail, not too realistic, so it's more graphical. It looks like an illustration, um, and we use the ellipsis for the balloon itself, and a little bit of a smaller ellipses, a rectangle here which we modified the shape for the knot of the balloon, and then thread, we just used lines and adjusted the curves for these lines to create it. Similarly for this one as well, but just in this case for the balloons, we use multiple ellipses, and then we use this effect called layer blur to sort of get us the more shiny, um, balloon effect, so that looks a lot more realistic. And in fact, I was just thinking we might actually make this gray, slightly gray, um, just because, just match this original image. And what we can do is, Oops, make the threads white. There you go. Now I'm happier about the image. Um, yeah, so this looks like this looks more like this image as well in terms of the colors and stuff. So this looks much better. So there we go. Um, designing a balloon live while this has been recorded. So and of course learning a little bit more of Figma as well while we're here. Um, do remember that this is a draft, and this is a we have created under the draft folder, so we can always rename this and then move this to a project once you're happy with a draft. But yeah, here you go. This is illustrating a balloon using Figma. um, and thanks for watching this video. I think this is probably the end of this video. Thanks for watching it, and if you do like what you've watched so far, um, forgive me, I'm a bit rusty in Figma myself because I'm learning it myself, and so this is a challenge for me as well. So yeah, forgive me for uh, a few mistakes here and there, but yeah, I hope you like this video, and if you do, just give it a thumbs up, comment down on this video, and let me know what you like. And if you have, if you have followed this video tutorial and have created some of the images, if you have followed along and created these balloons, do send me a link of, maybe on your social media post or something. Do send me a link of the image, and I'll do have a look. And yeah, do subscribe to this channel, and if you would like to see more videos about it, just let me know as well. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Thanks. See ya.